Hey all, Solomon AD here. We're in the Mayan room today. Um, I want to keep making videos more often, but work has been crazy. I want to talk today about a specific concept. Maybe this could even be a YouTube short video, but it's the progression of from like a cleansing slash like jinx removal, hex removal, cleansing to banishment to all out spiritual warfare. I believe that there's a lot of practitioners out there that, even skilled practitioners, that they run into things of where their banishings essentially stop working. They have minimal effect, and it doesn't matter whatever banishing of any kind of gram, hexagram, pentagram, instagram, whatever ritual that you do, just something won't go away. You could say it in a cop-out form of words, like this is just something you're meant to go through. I think so, but I've got a lot of experience with this spiritual warfare type of thing, where the solution is not going to come easy, and it's going to take a little bit of time, it's going to take effort, and it's going to basically take you have to level up your magic. You basically have to adopt certain offensive and defensive practices, which I'm not ruling out energy work as a form of that. However, I think, is energy work enough in these sorts of scenarios? I do not believe so. I think these kinds of things can manifest between an array of spiritual species, but they're not a vast array. They're pretty select. I'm talking about maybe family curses that just have such a stronghold. But even then, I would say that those family curses link to a higher meta-consciousness of adversary. I became acquainted with that sort of mothership of a consciousness from which these dark family curses, repeating behaviors that lead to downfalls, from which it manifests. Very dark, bad, ugly places and things from which this consciousness is associated with. I believe there are certain jinn out there that are associated with very bad hauntings, and really a lot of jinn can, even minor jinn, because they're very terrestrial based. Excuse me. I had like a collagen latte for breakfast today, and it's kind of thick. Anyway, but there are higher levels of infernal and malefic jinn that I think would require much more talents associated with exorcism, but not simply that. I think in the modern day, not just the modern day, I don't want to say that, because if I say that, that kind of suggests that exorcism is some kind of a backwards or old practice. Well, I believe it's very applicable to today. But I think with skilled magicians, because we think of exorcism really happening to somebody who's inexperienced, but skilled magicians, I think there's going to be a lot of astral battles. I think there's going to be a lot of seeing a lot of weird things in your life, and your perception is going to become a little twisted. Again, this has come from a place of experience. But other spiritual species associated with such would be um, outright demons. Not all demons, but there are very, very nasty ones that are associated with these sorts of things that can plague you. And they may play the role as an adversary to you in a way where it's some people may say, oh, they're just here to teach you a lesson, you have to go with it, but they're going to teach it to you in a way so much so that you're going to take it personally, because that is the extreme that it goes to. So is it really necessarily a healthy outlook to say, oh, but they were teaching me a lesson, so I accept them? I think that's a discussion for another time. So we talked about like poisonous entities that come from a very bad metaconsciousness, like a very like supremely worthless metaconsciousness, real parasitic stuff. Jinn of the most infernal type, demons of the most like nasty, dark, clipothic type, archons. Archons, in the sense of spiritual warfare, are really tricky. I've dealt with them numerous times, especially given my line of work. They are very hard to break away from and get rid of. In some cosmologies, they are the absolute hardest. I will say that when dealing with archons, you are probably in for a ride. And I mean a long ride. Whereas the other ones, any one of these can take time to get rid of, but the archons especially, because they're so fixated in places of power, you're looking at a slow grind against them. I could probably make more videos about each one of these spiritual species, a little bit more in depth in my experience with them and my studies with them. Studies on them, rather. I'm not like popping open a book with a gin, having tea, reading Arabian Nights or whatever. But I think for archons, first of all, a lot of people get a lot of things wrong about them. They like to really impose their biases on archons. And then another spiritual species. These are just the 5 that come to mind the most, but it's not just limited to these. The last one would be, you could call them monsters, you could call them draconic. Not all dragons are created equal. I don't think that, but I think the majority of malicious dragons are associated with this current. They are monsters, chaotic, chaos entities, things that Lovecraft talks about. Those are the kinds of spirits. Things that are associated with like the primordial abyss, not necessarily like when we think of the Oth, or like an abyss that comes like within the structure of creation. We're talking about primordial chaos that is before creation and is beyond creation, beyond the boundaries. And these things can make you go mad, and they can create all kinds of strife in your life. When you're dealing with any of these kinds of entities, this is spiritual warfare. It's beyond cleansing and it's beyond banishing. You're at the maximum level of threat. And I think as magicians, we need to become more aware of like, what stage are we in? What kind of conflict are we engaging in? Is this just a Palo Santo thing that we can wisp away? Is this a lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram? Is this a like a 7-day candle cleanse with bath kind of thing. And if this is beyond that, you're looking at a point of no return. There's an enemy and you have to address it, and now you have to figure out a way around it. And any one of these spiritual entities I've mentioned can probably going to stick around for a while. I said archons primarily, like, they're really long, but like the time frame would probably be longer. That's just because of they're fixated here, like they're fixated in positions of power. But any one of these entities, because they are so raw in power, they can take an extremely long time, and they're extremely dangerous. Try to recognize when they are manifesting in your life, and then the solution, there's not a one-size-fits-all. There's not. It will more than likely require you to go through levels of transformation. And the truth of the matter is that you don't have much of a choice. You will either have to admit that you have to level up, or you can kind of like throw whatever you want at it and then try and carry on with your life, but you will still be going downward because they will overpower you. You must give it your full spiritual attention. Recognize that its manifestations in your life, and then ally yourself with forces that have mutual interest in destroying it. This will also show you ways of which to empower your own spirit if you're not into working with spirits. But typically, when you are coming across any of these kinds of entities, you will have to enlist the help of other spiritual allies, small and large. It's kind of like the Avengers Assemble cry, like when one of these things show up. I hope that makes sense. I know it was kind of slightly disorganized in this video, but these are very abstract concepts that I'm trying to bring down into earthly words. If you have any questions, please like, share, and subscribe. Join the Patreon. There's more stuff coming with the Patreon that I will make a video to announce. Click on the link for my spiritual services, consults, ritual work. And until next time.